All right, today, we are on ACT Prep Unit 3, Elementary Algebra Topics, and Day 6 is Quadratic Equations. All right, so a quadratic equation can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. They can also be written in function notation, so instead of saying equals 0, they use this function notation, f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. But the quadratic is easy to recognize because it's a second degree equation. You can't have any degree higher than 2. And for it to be in proper form, you go second degree term, then your first degree term, and then your constant. Okay, these are also called general trinomials. So, to factor these polynomials of this form, there's a couple of things. When this number is 1, factoring is very, very simple. All you do is find the factors of C, figure out the pair that makes B, figure out your signs, and write your two factors. If A is not equal to 1, then we sing this little song. A times C, find all the factors. Rewrite B, 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! If you sing this song, factoring always, always works. You were probably taught the good old guess and check method. And that gets very frustrating for me. I'm not saying it's a bad technique. I just say I don't like it because I don't like guessing and checking 500 times. This way works every single solitary time. No guessing or checking required. All right, so let's factor. This trinomial, or this quadratic, has a equals 1. So the steps are to take just the factors of C. So my C value is 5. Don't worry about the sign. C equals 5. So we want all the factors of 5, which there are only 2, 1, and 5. They can make 4. So that's the goal. You want to take factors of this number that can either add or subtract to make this number. And I can make 4x if I subtract those. So I know my two factors. When x is 1, it's going to be x and x every time. And then whatever factors make your middle are going to be your numbers. And then all you have to do is figure out your signs. And you can figure it out logically. You can say, well, the only way to make a positive 4x out of those is if this is a negative 1x and this is a positive 5x. That would make a positive 4x in the middle. So there's your signs. But if you don't want to think that hard, C will tell you what to do. If C is positive, if you have a positive C, then both signs copy the middle. They copy B. If C is negative, then if C is positive, you have to have same signs. The signs of your factors have to be the same. If C is negative, then you have to have different signs. And the way you tell is the bully, whoever the bigger one, copies the middle, copies B, and the other is the opposite. Okay, so in this case, my C is negative, which means my signs have to be opposite. So either this is positive and this is negative, or this is negative and this is positive. To decide which one, since they have to be different, only the bully can be like the middle. So if 5 and 1 were in a fight, 5's the bully, he always picks the middle sign, so he's going to pick the positive, and 1 is going to pick the negative. And we factored. And you can check it if you're not sure if you're right. Multiply them back together. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Combine like terms and I get x squared plus 4x minus 5, which is what I started with. So my factors are correct. Okay. Now on 2, we've got to get everything. To be a quadratic equation in proper form, you need 0 on one side. So I'm going to minus 5x. That gives me 10x squared minus 11x equals 6. And I'm going to move the 6 over. You can't combine 6 with any of them, so you just drop it. So 10x squared minus 11x minus 6 equals 0. So in this case, I've got A is 10 and C is 6, if you ignore signs. Okay, when A is not 1, then you follow the second song. A times C, find all the factors. Rewrite B, 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Sing the song, it makes you happy. All right, so I'm going to do 10 times 6, and I'm going to make myself some room up here. 10 times 6 is 60. So A times C, find all the factors. All the factors of 60. 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, 7 doesn't go, 8 doesn't go, 9 doesn't go, 10 goes 6 times. I'm starting to repeat. So these are all my possibilities. And I need the pair that will make 11. Okay? So 1 and 60, no. 2 and 30, that could be 32 or 28. That could be 23 or 17. 19 if I add, 11 if I subtract. There we go. There's my pair. Okay, so I did A times C, found all the factors. You hear the song, A times C, find all the factors. The next step is to rewrite B. So the next step is they want me to take my negative 11x and rewrite it with this pair. Well, okay. So I'm going to call it 4x and 15x. I just have to figure out the signs. Well, again, C will tell me. Since C is negative, they have to have opposite signs. So one has to be positive, one has to be negative. The bully always picks his sign first, and he always picks the middle sign. So if 15 wants to be negative, that means 4x has to be positive. Sorry. Oops. Dang it. Okay, so you keep the first and the last term. I don't change the 10x squared, and I don't change the minus 6. So A times C, found all the factors, rewrite B. Now we're at 2 by 2, GCF, dang it, GCF, GCF again. And I actually write that out because it helps me remember what I still need to do. So on this side, I'm looking for a GCF. The biggest number that goes into both is 2. And this guy has 2 copies of x, this guy has 1, so 1 is the greatest that they have in common. To get what's left, I divide by 2x, which is going to give me, let's switch colors here, purple. 10x squared divided by 2x would give me 5x. Positive 4x divided by positive 2x would give me positive 2. If I can write that without smearing it. Okay, on the other side, we have to GCF. The biggest number that goes into both, always take this guy's sign. Always, always, always. So I'm going to take a negative whatever. Then the biggest number that goes into him is 3. He has an x to the first. He has no x, so they have no x's in common. To get what's left, I divide by negative 3. When I divide by negative 3, negative 15x divided by negative 3 is positive 5x. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is positive 2. And then I GCF again. And you can tell if you're right. At this point, you will end up with a matching binomial. This is what takes care of all the guess and check. I don't ever have to worry about guessing and checking. This always, always works. If you don't end up with a matching binomial on both sides of that 2 by 2, then either the polynomial is prime or you did something wrong. But I can GCF again by whatever matches. So my GCF again is 5x plus 2. To get what remains, to get the other factor, I divide by 5x plus 2. And those two terms in green are my other factor. So my other factor is going to be 2x, this thing would go away, is going to be 2x minus 3. So this factors into, my final answer would be 5x plus 2 times 2x minus 3 equals 0. And if you factor that back out, you would end up with 10x squared minus 11x minus 6. Okay? Alright, so let's practice some more. On this next one, remember, in yesterday's we learned all those specials, and one was the perfect square trinomial. And this one, you could do A times C, but when I do 16 times 25, it's going to be a huge number that then I have to turn around, find all the factors for, and figure out what pair make 40. My clue is here, I don't always check for perfects unless I notice that the ends are perfect squares. The square root of 16x squared would be 4x. The square root of 25 would be 5. Okay? And then remember, if you're checking for perfect trinomials, you're asking yourself, does the middle term equal 2 times these guys? 2 times 4x times 5. Well, that would be 8x times 5 would be 40x. So yes, it does. Which means this is a perfect square with plus in the middle and equals 0. Okay, if you know it's perfect square, whatever sign this is will be in the middle, and my two terms then are 4x and 5. So it's 4x plus 5 squared. Okay. Alright, on 2, I notice there's only 2 terms, so that triggers to me to check to see if they're perfect, or if it's difference of squares. That's a minus. And let's check the ends. Is the square root of 36x squared perfect? Yes, it's 6x. The square root of 49 is perfect. It's 7. So bino, plus and mino. And my terms are going to be 6x plus 7 and 6x minus 7 equals 0. And I have factored. Okay? Alright. So now we're going to be told to solve these things, okay? All you have to do is the exact same thing we've been doing. We're going to write the equation in standard form. Then we're going to factor. And then we're going to, excuse me, find the solution set by setting the factors equal to 0 and solving. I'm also going to teach you how to do it on the graphing calculator. It's interesting. I guess at times when the numbers are nasty, it can be useful. I'm going to teach it to you, but in all honesty, it's faster to do it by hand than it is on the calculator. But some people just really dig the calculator and want to use it, so I'll do it both. I'll do it by hand, and then I'll show you how to do it on the calculator. Alright, so it says factor to solve the quadratic equation. We already factored this, okay? A, but it won't hurt us to go over again. A is 1, so it should be an easy factor with x and x. Factors of 5 that are 1 and 5. They make 4, which means my two constants are 1 and 5. Since C is negative, the signs have to be different, and bully will copy the middle sign. So 5 picks the positive, which means 1 gets the negative. Okay, that's just factoring like we did 5 minutes ago. To turn the factors into solutions, you set each one to 0. So I say, because this says this times this equals 0. This is called the zero product property. If you're saying that something times something is 0, there's only one way that happens, and that's if one of them or both of them are equal to 0. So when would x minus 1 equal 0, and when would x plus 5 equal 0? Well, x minus 1 would equal 0, add 1, when x is 1. Or minus 5, you'll get a 0 when x equals negative 5. So my two solutions to this equation are 1 and negative 5. And notice you don't put them in round parentheses because that would look like an ordered pair, and that's not what my solution means. Okay? And you're done. So that took, what, 30 seconds? And I'll show you how to do it on the calculator, but like I said, unless you practice this and get really fast at it, it's more work to do it on the calculator than it is by hand. But it's kind of cool. What you do is you go to y equals, that's this key right here, and you type in the equation, x squared plus 4x minus 5. And you get the little, I should have let more of my calculator on there. Let me back up exactly for a second. To get an x, the fastest way, you can do the whole alpha and then find x down here if you want to, but this key right next to alpha, if you're in function mode, which is what we're in, when you hit this button, it will type x every time. So that's the fastest way to get x. To get a square, there's your fastest key. You could also do the caret 2 key to get a square. Okay? And then what we're going to be calculating are called zeros. When you solve a quadratic equation, the solutions are called zeros, which means they are the x-intercepts on your graph. So when you go to calculate these, to do calculate, it's right here, so you're going to have to do second trace, and it'll take you to this screen, and then we're going to want choice 2, to calculate our zeros. Okay, so by calculator, we go to y equals and we type in the function. And then we hit graph. Okay, and I do a zoom 6 to get a standard window. Okay, so I hit the zoom key right here and I choose choice 6 to get a standard window. So there's my parabola. Okay, there's a graph of that equation. And my solutions, I've got one right there and one right there. Now, you can probably eyeball it and go, well, that's 1 and -5. But, again, this one's nice. It comes out real pretty whole numbers. But if that was a decimal, okay, we'd have to calculate it. So I'll show you how. You go to second trace to get the calc button, and we want to choose 0. Then what's going to happen is it's going to ask you for a left bound. And I don't know where your cursor will be. But what you want to do is, when you trace this function, you always, just like you read words, you read a graph left to right. So when I'm tracing this, I start over here, come down, and back up. So what they're saying by left bound is they're saying as you come down, get close to the x-axis, but stop before you hit it. So my left bound would be above. So I get it just somewhere there, and I hit enter. And then it's going to ask you, it's going to put a little arrow there for where you hit enter, and then it's going to ask you for your right bound. Well, what that means is you want to go past the x-intercept and stop. So I didn't go very far past it, and I hit enter for my right bound, and then hit enter. Then it's going to, if you hit enter, it's going to ask you, do you want to guess? No, we don't want to guess. Hit enter one more time, and you can see that that 0 is at -5. This y, when you get an x-intercept, y has to be 0. So that ordered pair would be -5, 0. So what is this crap? This says that y isn't 0. It says it's -1, e, -12. What that means is you have your decimal needs to move 12 places left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's like 11 zeros in front of that 1. So -0.000000, for all intents and purposes, that's 0. Okay, it's just the calculator very, very distinctly calculates. Okay, all right, but that's only one of them. Now we got to do the exact same thing to find the other one. So I go back to second calc again. You have to go second 0 and pick 0. But now again, you're coming around. Your cursor was here, so you're coming around, and now the left bound. Okay, as you're approaching the next x-intercept, before you get there, you stop, which in this case puts the left bound below the x-axis. You hit enter, and then to get the right bound, you go past the x-intercept and hit enter, and it will tell you there's your 0 is at 1, 0, and there's that one. Like I said, much faster to do it by hand, but again, sometimes, I don't know, if you got ugly quadratics that can't be factored, so your answers are all decimal and stuff like that, then sometimes the graphing calculator does make your life easier. Alright, the next one, we did this one. Remember, we subtracted 5x, which killed that, and we subtracted 6. You don't mind me doing it all at once. And that gave me 10x squared minus 11x minus 6 equals 0. We did 10 times 6 and got 60. We found all the factors. I'm not going to write them all. We found that 4 and 15 will make me 11. So I rewrite b. So I did 8 times c, found all the factors, rewrite b. So that's going to be 4x and 15x. C is negative, so bully's going to copy the middle. C is negative, so they have to have different signs. Different signs means bully takes the middle, so 15 is going to take the minus, which means 4 has to be plus. And I bring down the first and the last, so I have 10x squared at front and minus 6 at back. Now we have two terms. We have two terms, so I'm going to go 2 by 2, GCF. I need to be way over here. Sorry, I'm writing on top of where that calculator's thing's going to go. My bad. Okay, so let's see where we're going to be at. We did 10x squared minus 11x minus 6. We rewrote b as positive 4x and negative 15x. And we bring the first and the last down. 10x squared minus 6, 2 by 2. GCF by 2x, divide by 2x, gives me 5x plus 2. The other side, GCF by negative 3, and I get 5x plus 2. GCF again by 5x plus 2, leaves, divide by it, and I get 2x minus 3 equals 0. So now that I factored, again, to solve it, we set each factor to 0. So I have 5x plus 2 equals 0, and I have 2x minus 3 equals 0. To get x alone on the first one, I'm going to minus 2. That gives me 5x equals negative 2. Divide by 5, and I get x equals negative 2/5. To solve this one, add 3, I get 2x equals 3. Divide by 2, and I get x equals 3/2. And those would be my two solutions. Okay? Again, that, to me, takes less time than this takes. Alright? I would go to y equals. You type in the simplified equation. Don't type that in. You got to type it in with 0 on one side. Hit, this one I had to set my window a little funny because I couldn't see it very well with a standard window. So I changed my x to go from negative 5 to 5. And then I could see a pretty decent picture. So those are my two solutions. So I'm going to go to second trace, which is calc. Alright, and I didn't put all the things. I had to do left bound, right bound. But it gave me my 0 was negative 0.4. I'm going, we didn't get that. Yes, we did. Negative 2/5 is negative 0.4. So when I calculate the other one, second calc, 0, this would be your left bound below, right bound would be above, and it says that that 0 is at 1.5, which would be my 3/2. Okay? Again, you could change negative 0.4, there's my negative 2/5, there's my positive 3/2. Okay? Alright, so if we solve this one, again, we already factored it. This one was one of the perfect ones. Alright? We said we checked the ends. The square root of 16x squared is 4x. The square root of 25 is 5. And then we checked the middle. Does 40x equal 2 times these two guys? 4x times 5. And yes, that's true. 40x equals 40x. Alright, so I know that this is going to be a perfect square with a plus, and my terms are going to be 4x and 5. So 4x plus 5 squared equals 0. Now, to solve this, what that means is you have two copies of 4x plus 5 equal to 0. So to solve, you set them each to 0 and solve for x. So 4x plus 5 equals 0. 4x plus 5 equals 0. I'm going to, they're the same factor, so minus 5 minus 5, I get 4x equals negative 5 on both. Divide by 4, and I get x equals negative 5/4 twice. What that means, guys, on a perfect square is, I don't know if you noticed, but on the other equations that we did, when we looked at their graph, each one crossed the x-axis twice, and that's usually what happens. But sometimes it only touches once, and that's when this happens. This is called a double root. We got the same answer twice. Watch what happens when I look at the picture. So I go to y equal, I type it in. I set my window, and I had to set it negative 5 to 5, counting by ones. The y's, negative 2 to 2, set it by ones. You do that, by the way, by hitting your window key. You can set it to anything you want. And then I hit graph, so I got a pretty decent picture. And you can see that the parabola, there's only 1 0. It only touches one time. Okay, it's what we call tangent. And that's because we have a double root. Alright, but at any rate, I can calculate the 0. You got to do your left bound, right bound, and it looks like negative 1.249999, 0. Well, if I did negative 5/4, and you get the same thing. Okay. Alright, so if I solve this one, we already factored it. We said it was difference of squares. The square root of 36x squared is 6x. The square root of 49 is 7. So bino, plus and minus. And my terms are 6x plus 7 and 6x minus 7 equals 0. So if I solve those, 6x plus 7 equals 0. 6x minus 7 equals 0. On the first one, I'm going to minus 7. I get 6x equals negative 7. Divide by 6, and x equals negative 7/6. Solve the second one, add 7 to both sides. I get 6x equals 7. Divide by 6, and x equals 7/6. Okay? Calculator, type it into y equals. Graph, here's the window I picked, just so you can, and you'll play with windows so you get a good picture. And there are my two zeros. So if I calculate the first one, I get negative 1.16 repeating, which that's what this one is if you type it in. To get the second one after left bound, right bound, and guess, you get positive 1, there's your positive 7/6, 0. And why do we have 5/3 instead of 7/6? Well, not really sure what happened there. Those are my two answers. Alright, so you try this one, hit pause, come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got 1. Okay, so difference of squares. The square root of 16x squared is 4x. The square root of 4 is 2. So bino, plus and minus. And my terms are going to be 4x plus 2 and 4x minus 2. If I set those to 0, 4x plus 2 equals 0. 4x minus 2 equals 0. And I solve those. I would minus 2, 4x equals negative 2. Divide by 4, x equals negative 2/4, but that reduces down to 1/2. On the other one, add 2, 4x equals 2, divide by 4, x equals positive 1/2. Calculator, type it in, calculate zeros. There's your left one, negative 0.5. There's your right one, positive 0.5. Alright, try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got J. Alright, this one is a general trino, but I've got to get 0 on one side. So I'm going to minus 2, which gives me 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0. A is not 1, so I'm going to have to do A times C, find all the factors, rewrite B, 2 by 2, GCF again. Woo! Sing the song. Makes you happy. Alright, so I've got an A that is 2, a C that is 2, which makes 4. Factors of 4, 1 and 4. 2 and 2. 1 and 4 will make 3. So I'm going to rewrite B as 1x and 4x. C will tell you the signs. Since C is negative, the signs have to be different, and bully will always take what's in the middle. So 4 is going to take the plus, which means 1 has to be the minus, since they have to have different signs. Bring down your first, 2x squared, bring down your last, negative 2. And now we are at 2 by 2. So if I GCF over here, the only thing they have in common is an x. Divide to get what's left. And I get x minus 1. On the other side, we're going to GCF by a positive 2 is the biggest number that goes into them. Divide by positive 2. And I get, oh, that's 2x. Sorry, 2x squared divided by x is 2x. 4x squared divided by 2 is 2x. And negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. GCF again by the matching binom to get what's left. Divide. And my green is x plus 2 equals 0. Now, you haven't solved it, you just factored it. So now I have to set my factors to 0 and solve. So 2x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1. 2x equals 1. Divide by 2. X equals 1/2. Second one, x plus 2 equals 0. Minus 2 minus 2, x equals negative 2. So my two solutions are positive 1/2 and negative 2. Okay? And I graphed it, and I calculated the zeros. There's your negative 2. There's your positive 1/2. Alright, so we solved this one. This one should be easy because A is 1. So I just find factors of C, 1 and 3. And that's it. They'll make 4. So my two factors are x and x with a 1 and a 3. Sign, C is positive, so they have to have the same sign, which is what's in the middle, so they're both going to be plus. So now to solve it, I say x plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, minus 1, x equals negative 1. X plus 3 equals 0, minus 3, x equals negative 3. Those are my two solutions. I can check it on the calculator. Okay, I typed it in. I did left bound and got negative 3. I did right bound and got negative 1. Not right bound, but left 0, right 0. Alright, so if I do this one, I've got 4 times 6 is going to do 8 times C. So 4 times 6 is 24. All the factors of 24, 1 and 24, will not make 10. 2 and 12. That will make 10. And normally I stop. Normally I stop right there and I go for it. Alright? However, this is a rare case. You need to be on your toes for it. It does not happen very often. But occasionally it does. If I keep going, 3 goes in there 8, which won't make 10. 4 goes in there 6, which will make 10. So again, this is rare. Normally there's only one way to make B, but occasionally there's 2 ways, and you can tell which one to use. To make 10 out of this, I would have to subtract the numbers. To make 10 out of this, I would have to add the numbers. C will tell you, C sign will tell you which pair to pick. Since C is positive, I want the addition pair. If C was negative, then I would want the subtraction pair. Okay, so I did 8 times C, found all the factors, rewrite B as 4x and 6x. Signs, again, C is positive, which means both signs have to match, and they will match what's in the middle. So these guys are both going to want a negative. And then you bring the first and the last down. So I have 4x squared at the front and positive 6 at the back. Okay, so 8 times C, found the factors, rewrite B. Now we're at 2 by 2. GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Alright, on this side, my GCF is 4x. Divide to get what's left. 4x squared divided by 4x would leave plain old x. And negative 4x divided by positive 4x is negative 1. GCF on the other side, and it looks like they have a negative, always take the first guys, and a 6 in common. Divide by negative 6, and I get Negative 6x divided by negative 6 is positive x. Positive 6 divided by negative 6 is negative 1. And voila, I have a matching bino. So I get to GCF again, woo, by x minus 1. To get what's left, I divide by x minus 1. And my terms in green are my second factor. So my second factor is going to be 4x minus 6. Now, it didn't just say factor, it said factor to solve. So I have to set my factors to 0. So x minus 1 equals 0, add 1, x equals 1. 4x minus 6 equals 0, add 6, 4x equals 6. Divide by 4, x equals 3 halves. And if I do the picture, okay, I type in the equation, I change my window, this 0 is 1 and this 0 is 1.5. Okay. Alright, let's try this one. Give me just a second. Alright. So we're going to factor to solve each equation. Again, I've got to get 0 on one side, so I'm going to add 81 to both sides. That gives me 9x squared plus 54x plus 81 equals 0. Those big numbers and those big ends, again, my instinct is to do a times c, find all the factors. But when I notice the ends are perfect squares and they're big like that, I tend to think, I wonder if that's the perfect trinomial. So I check. This is the ends. The square root of 9x squared is perfect, 3x. Square root of 81 is perfect, 9. Does 54x equal 2 times 3x times 9? That would be 6x times 9 is 54x, so yes. Which means this is going to be a perfect square. They're all pluses, so this is plus. And my terms are going to be 3x and 9. So again, I have two of these. 3x plus 9 equals 0 times 3x plus 9 equals 0. That's what squared means, two copies. So if I solve each one of these, but since they're the same, I'm going to get the same answer twice, which means there's only one solution, which means it's tangent to the x-axis at minus 9, 3x equals negative 9, divide by 3, and this one's going to be the same thing because it's the same factor. And what that means is that the function only touches the x-axis once. You can see I typed it in, I graphed it, I calculated the 0, it's at negative 3, 0. Alright, so if we do this one, again, I've got to get 0 on one side, so I'm going to minus 15, which gives me 6x squared plus x minus 15 equals 0. Those ends are not perfect squares, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to do my a times c, find all the factors, rewrite b, 2 by 2, GCF again. Woo! If I say that enough, you'll remember it. Alright, so 6 times 15 is 90. Factors of 90. 1 and 90 will not make 1. 2 and 45 will not make 1. 3 and 30 will not make 1. 4 goes in there a decimal, so we can't use it. 5 and 18 will not make 1. 6 and 15 will not make 1. 7 doesn't go into 90. 8 doesn't go into 90. 9 goes into 90 10 times. That will make 1. So I rewrite b as 9x and 10x. Figure out the signs. C is negative, which means my signs have to be different. And bully 10 will always take the middle. So 10 wants the plus, which means 9 gets the minus. First and last come down. So 6x squared at the front, minus 15 at the back. Now we have 4 terms, so we are at 2 by 2. GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Alright, over here, the biggest number that goes into both of them would be a 3, and 2 copies or 1 copy of x would be 1. To get what's left, I divide by 3x. That's going to give me, switch colors here, 6x squared divided by 3x would be 2x. Negative 9x divided by positive 3x would be negative 3. Excuse me. On the other side, the GCF, the biggest number that goes, I'm going to take a positive. Biggest number is a 5. They don't have x's in common. So divide by positive 5, and I get 10x divided by 5 is 2x. Negative 15 divided by positive 5 is negative 3. At this point, you better have a matching bino, or you did something wrong, or it's prime. My matching bino is going to be 2x minus 3. To get what's left, I divide by 2x minus 3, and my black terms are what is left, 3x plus 5. Okay, we factored, we didn't solve. To solve, I got to set the factors to 0 and get x alone. So 2x minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to add 3. I get 2x equals 3. Divide by 2. I get x equals 3 halves. Solve the second one. 3x plus 5 equals 0. Minus 5. 3x equals negative 5. Divide by 3. And x equals negative 5/3. Those are my two solutions. If we look on the calculator, all right, I type it in, I graph it, I calculate this 0, which is at negative 1.6 repeating, that's negative 5/3. And the other one is at 1.5, which is at 3 halves. Okay? All right, on this one, they want us to solve this, but they want us to do it by factoring. So to factor, you got to get 0 on one side. So I'm going to minus 126 minus 126. That gives me 7x squared minus 126 equals 0. Well, the only thing I can do here, those aren't perfect squares, so I just have to look for a GCF, okay, which is 7. So my GCF is 7. To get what's left, I divide by it. And 7x squared divided by 7 is x squared. Negative 126 divided by 7 is minus 18. And we factored, so now we set each factor to 0, and I have 7 equals 0, which is just silly. There's no variable in it, so it doesn't give us a solution. And I have x squared minus 18 equals 0. Well, to get x alone, I'm going to add 18. So x squared equals 18, square root. And I get x equals plus or minus the square root of 18. Now, I don't know what the author is or what ACT's answers are going to look like. If they are decimal, then you would just type this in and get decimal equivalents. If they're radical, then you have to break this down. If I break down 18, by 2 is 9, by 3 is 3. Okay, that gives me the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 squared. Well, the square root of 3 squared is just 3. So that gives me x equals plus or minus 3 square roots of 2. This is my guess, that they're going to want you to put it in simplest radical form. Okay? Or you could go decimal. Look at the graph or the table or the window that I had to pick to get a good picture. Okay? So you have these decimals, and if you try and turn them into fractions, it just puts them back as decimals, which means it's not rational because of that square root of 2 in it. Okay? All right, so if we look at this one, again, we want to factor. Well, two terms, it's not difference of squares, so I'm going to look for a GCF. 8's the smallest number. It goes into both of them, so that's my GCF. 2 copies of x or 1 copy of x, GCF is the smallest, right? Because they only have 1 copy in common. So there's my GCF. To get what's left, I divide by it. And that would give me 8x squared divided by 8x would leave me x. Positive 40x divided by 8x is going to leave me positive 5 equals 0. And now we can set to 0 and solve. Well, 8x equals 0, divide by 8, x equals 0. Solve the other one, x plus 5 equals 0, minus 5, x equals negative 5. And if I graph it, you can see there's my negative 5 and there's my 0. Alright, let's try this one. Give me just another second. I'm so sorry. Alright, we are back. Okay, so on this one, again, I've got to get 0 on one side. I do not like my squared term negative, so I'm going to move everything over this way. So I'm going to add 2x squared. That'll get rid of it over here, and I'm going to subtract 21, which gives me 0 on this side. So over here, in right order, none of them can combine. They're not the same, so I'm going to drop them in order. My second degree, my first degree, my constant. Okay, and then I'm going to do A times C, find all the factors, rewrite B, 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again, woo! So A is 2, C is 21, 2 times 21 is 42, 1 and 42 will not make 1, 2 and 21 will not make 1, 3 and 14 will not make 1, 4 does not go, 5 does not go, 6 and 7, they will make 1. So I'm going to rewrite B, excuse me, I'm going to rewrite B with 6x and 7x. Since C is negative, the signs have to be different, and bully 7 copies the middle. So 7's going to copy a plus, which means 6 has to be minus. Drop the first and the last, so 2x squared in front, minus 21 at back. We're at 4 terms, which means we move to 2 by 2. GCF, GCF, GCF again. And like I said, sometimes I'll do that. GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Alright, on this side, your GCF would be 2x. Divide by 2x. I get 2x squared divided by 2x is positive x. Negative 6x divided by positive 2x is negative 3. On the other side, my GCF is going to be a positive, because that sign after the wall is positive. 7 goes into both, so 7, no x's. Divide by positive 7. Oops. And I get, sorry, I got ahead of myself there. 7x divided by 7 would be positive x. Negative 21 divided by 7 would be negative 3. GCF again, like I said, beautiful how it always works. You'll get a matching bino, or unless it's prime. So my GCF again is x minus 3. To get what's left, I divide. And my green terms are my second factor, 2x plus 7. Okay, equals 0, and then we solve. So x minus 3 equals 0, add 3. Add 3 is when x equals 3. Okay, there's that one. And then I have 2x plus 7 equals 0, minus 7, 2x equals negative 7. Divide by 2, and I get x equals negative 3.5. And there's that one. Okay. Alright, so we solve this one again. If you're told to factor, I mean, there's another way to solve this, but if you're told to factor, that means you've got to get 0 on one side. So minus 16, I get 4x squared minus 16 equals 0. Now I can see that I have difference of squares, so because the square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 16 is 4, so they're perfect, which means bino, plus and mino. And my terms are going to be 2x plus 4 and 2x minus 4. So now to solve it, I'm going to have 2x plus 4 equals 0, 2x minus 4 equals 0. minus 4, minus 4, 2x equals negative 4. Divide by 2, and x equals a negative 2. Add 4, 2x equals positive 4. Divide by 2, and x equals positive 2. So my solutions are negative 2 and positive 2. Let me just show you something in case. When you have a squared term on one side and a perfect square on the other, I mean, this isn't wrong. This is the way you would solve it by factoring. But anytime I have a second degree term and no first degree x, there's no just plain old x, it's called isolate and kill. Isolate the square and then kill it with a square root. So if I wanted to get rid of multiplying by 4, I would divide by 4. That gives me x squared equals 4. Then to kill a square, you square root, which gives me x equals plus or minus 2. Or you could do it with the graph. Okay. Alright, so on this one, to me, I just catch the ends. Again, 9 times 4 would be 36, which isn't too bad, and that would work. But if you get old like me and you look at these over and over again for 20-something years, you tend to start to recognize perfect squares, perfect trinomials. So check the ends. The square root of 9x squared is 3x. The square root of 4 is 2. And does the middle, 12x, equal 2 times these guys? Well, 2 times 3x would be 6x, times 2 would be 12x. So yes, it does, which means this is a perfect square with these terms in it. So it would be 3x plus 2 squared. So to solve that, you set them to 0 and solve. So I have 3x plus 2 equals 0, and another copy of the same thing equal to 0. Minus 2, 3x equals negative 2. Divide by 3, x equals negative 2/3. And that's what you're going to get over here. This parabola is only going to touch one time. Okay? So I got that. What else was I going to show you about this? Oh, what if you did do it the other way? Alright, if you did 8 times c, 9 times 4 is 36. Factors of 36. 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 5 is a decimal, 6 and 6. And you can always tell it's perfect. If you miss it and you start making your list, when you get doubles, you know it's perfect. Okay, so if I rewrite 12x, that'd be plus 6x plus 6x. Bring my first and last, 9x squared plus 4, 2 by 2. I can GCF by 3x over here, which would leave 3x plus 2. I can GCF by 2 over here, which leaves 3x plus 2. There's my matching bino. So I GCF again. Darn it. Hold on. I GCF again by 3x plus 2 to get what's left, divide, and I get 3x right here plus 2 right here. Did I get the same thing, 3x plus 2 squared? So the long way A times C song always works. You just save yourself a little bit of time if you recognize the specials. Alright, if you check it, you can see it touches one time at negative 0.6 repeating, which is negative 2/3. Alright, so if we do this one, I've got to get everything on one side. I don't want my squared term negative, so I'm moving it over with a positive 4x squared. That gives me 4x squared minus 19x minus 5 equals 0. I got to do A times C, find all the factors, rewrite B, 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! So I've got A is 4, C is 5, 4 times 5 is 20. Factors of 20, 1 and 20 will make 19. So like I said, the majority of the time, once you find it, you can quit. There's rare occasions where there's another pair that would work, but if yours is wrong, you'll know because you won't get a matching binom. So I'm going to use 1x and 20x, and C is negative, which means my signs have to be different. So bully 20 is copy in the middle. So 20 is minus, which means 1 has to be plus. Bring down the front and the back. So I've got 4x squared out here and minus 5 at the back. We now have 4 terms, so we're at 2 by 2. GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Alright, over here, my GCF looks like 1x. So if I divide by x and divide by x, that leaves 4x. Oops, I'm going to put a different color. That leaves 4x plus 1. Okay, on the other side, my GCF would be a negative, because I always take that guy's sign. 5 is the smallest it goes into both, so 5 is it. He has an x or no x, so that's going to be a no x. So divide by negative 5, and I get, there's an x there, a positive 4x and a positive 1. GCF again by 4x plus 1. To get what's left, I divide, and my red terms are x minus 5. Now to solve it, I set them to 0 and get x alone. So 4x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. Minus 1, 4x equals negative 1. Divide by 4, x equals negative 1/4. And this one, add 5, x equals 5. And there's my 2 solutions. You can check on a graph. I typed it in. I got a window where I could see pretty well. And then I zoomed in on my zeros, which is at negative 0.25, which is your negative 1/4, and at positive 5. Okay? Alright, if we do this one, oh my goodness. A is 1, so this one should be easy. X and x. Factors of 6 that make 1 would have to be 2 and 3. And C is negative, so the signs have to be opposite. 3 bully will take the middle, so 3 is going to take the minus, which means 2 is going to take the plus. And to solve it, we set our factors to 0 and get x alone. So on this one, minus 2, x equals negative 2. Add 3, and x equals 3. Those are my 2 solutions. I can check on a calculator. Go to y equals, type it in, calculate this 0, which is your negative 2. Calculate this 0, which is your positive 3. Alright, on this one, I noticed 2 terms, and they look perfect, and it's a minus. That's difference of squares. The square root of 25x squared is 5x. The square root of 36 is 6. So bino, plus and minus. And my terms are going to be 5x plus 6 and 5x minus 6. To solve those then, I take 5x plus 6, set it to 0. Minus 6, 5x equals negative 6. Divide by 5, x equals negative 6/5. The other one, 5x minus 6 equals 0. Add 6, so 5x equals 6. Divide by 5, x equals positive 6/5. Okay? If we look at the graph, you got 1.2 and negative 1.2. And if you math and enter those, there's your plus and minus 6/5. Alright, on this one, I don't like my squared term negative, so I'm going to move everything over. So I'm going to do plus x squared, which kills them over here, and minus 9 puts them over there. So now I have x squared minus 9 equals 0. Which is difference of squares. So bino, bino, plus and mino. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 9 is 3. And now set them to 0 and solve. X plus 3 equals 0, so minus 3 minus 3, x equals negative 3. Or x minus 3 equals 0, add 3, and x equals positive 3. So plus or minus 3. And if we look at the graph, there's my parabola. Actually, I didn't move it over. I did just graph it upside down. But notice, does it cross at 3 and at negative 3? Yes, it does. Alright, on this one, we can't factor until we get 0 on one side. So I'm going to minus x, and minus 14 minus 14. That gives me 3x squared minus x minus 14 equals 0. Yes? Alright, so I need to do a times c. 3 times 14 is 42. Factors of 42, 1 and 42 are not going to make 1. 2 and 21 are not going to make 1. Didn't we already do this and figure out 6 and 7 make 1? We did. So, I'm going to rewrite this with 6x and 7x, and c will tell me my signs. C is negative, which means my signs must be different, which means one's plus, one's minus. Bully picks first. He always picks the middle sign, so 7x is negative and 6x is positive. Okay, so now bring down your first and your last. 3x squared minus 14. And we are now at 4 terms, which I can split 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Alright, so over here on this side, it looks like a 3 and an x are the greatest. So divide by 3x, divide by 3x. I end up with x plus 2. On the other side, I want to go with a negative because the first guy is negative. And 7 goes into both, so I'm going to use 7. Alright, so I have negative 7. A little bigger space there. What's negative 7x divided by negative 7? Positive x. Negative 14 divided by negative 7 would be positive 2. And if you look, I have a matching bino, which makes that my GCF again. By x plus 2. To get what's left, we're going to divide by x plus 2. And I end up with 3x minus 7. But we have to solve that. So I have x plus 2 times 3x minus 7 equals 0. To solve this, we set each one to 0, so x plus 2 equals 0. And 3x minus 7 equals 0. Minus 2, x equals negative 2. This one, add 7. I get 3x equals 7 divided by 3. X equals 7/3. Okay? And I think I just wrote all of those things. Yeah, but I typed negative 2.3 repeating and you get negative 7/3. And this one is, so that one's that one. That one's just negative 2. Alright, so let's do this one. Give me just a second again. Alright, we are back. Alright, so the factor to solve this one, again, I need everything on the same side, so I'm going to add 14x, I get x squared plus 14x plus 24 equals 0. And a is 1, so this should be an easy factor with x and x. And I need factors of 24, so 1 and 24 will not make 14. 2 and 12 will. So 2 goes here, 12 goes here, and C will tell you the signs. Since C is positive, the signs are going to be the same, and they're both going to copy the one in the middle, which is positive. So to solve, I have x plus 2 equals 0 and x plus 12 equals 0. Minus 2, x equals negative 2, minus 12, x equals negative 12. And I typed it in, had to change my window so I could see it, and there's my two zeros at negative 12 and at negative 2. Alright, so if we look at this one, alright, we're going to have to do A times C, find all the factors. So 14 times 1 is 14. Factors of 14 are 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and that's it. And 2 and 7 will make 5, so rewrite B using 2x and 7x. C will tell you the sign. Since C is negative, they have to be opposite, and bully takes the middle. So 7x takes the minus, which means 2x takes the plus, and first and last drop. Now we've made 4 terms, so we can go 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again. Whoa. Alright, on this side, it looks like my GCF is going to be a little old bitty 2x. Divide to get what's left. And I got a new color is what I got. 14x squared divided by 2x would be positive 7x. Positive 2x divided by positive 2x would be positive 1. On the other side, my GCF, I know it's going to be a negative because I always take a sign. The smallest number is 1, so that's it. And no x's. He has an x, he has none. So my GCF on the other side is negative 1. So I've got negative 7x divided by negative 1 would be positive 7x. And a negative 1 divided by a negative 1 would be positive 1. And now you can see that my binos match, which means that's my new GCF. Divide by it. And my purple terms are the ones that are left. 2x minus 1. And then we have to solve it. So I have 7x plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, 7x equals negative 1. Divide by 7, x equals negative 1, 7. 2x minus 1 equals 0, add 1, 2x equals 1, divide by 2, and x equals 1/2. And if we look at the graph, okay, there's my negative 1/7, which is right there. And then there's my 0.5, which is right there. Okay? Alright, we got to get everything on the same side. So I'm going to add 19x, add 19x, add 39, add 39. That gives me 0 on that side. On the right, I got 2x squared plus 19x plus 39. Okay, these are not perfect ends, so I'm going to have to do A times C song. A is 2, C is 39, 2 times 39 is 78. Factors of 78, 1 and 78, but that won't make 19. 2 and 39 will not make 19. 3 and 26 will not make 19. 4 doesn't go into 78. 5 does not go into 78. 6 goes into 78 13 times. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite B with 6x and 13x. I can make 19 out of that. C will tell you your sign. Since C is positive, the signs have to match, and they have to match the middle sign, which is plus. So they're both positive. Bring down the first and the last. 2x squared plus 39. And now we can go 2 by 2. GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Alright, on this side, my GCF would be a 2x. Divide to get what's left. 2x squared divided by 2x would leave plain old x. Positive 6x divided by positive 2x would leave positive 3. The x is clear. The other side, 13. 13 goes into both of them, and I'm going to take a positive. To get what's left, you divide by 13, and I get 13x divided by 13 is x. 39 divided by 13 is positive 3. So GCF again by x plus 3. To get what's left, we divide by it. And my green terms are going to be what? 2x plus 13. So now to solve it, x plus 3 equals 0, minus 3 minus 3, x equals negative 3. 2x plus 13 equals 0, minus 13. 2x equals negative 13. Divide by 2, and x equals negative 13 halves. Okay? And if you try that, it works. Alright, so we've got x squared plus 2x plus 1. Should be an easy factor because a is 1. What factors of 1 make 2? 1 and 1. Since c is happy, they both get the middle sign, which is plus. Done. Oh, solve. So x plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, x equals negative 1. X plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, y equals negative 1. Not y, that's another x. Sorry. So this one's going to be a double root. It's only going to touch one time at negative 1. Alright, so if we do this one again, I want to get everything on one side, and I don't like my squared term negative, so I'm going to move everything this way. So plus 10x squared, that gets rid of that, minus 21, that gets rid of that. In order on this side would be 10x squared plus 29x minus 21 equals 0. Okay, I got to do a times c. So 10 times 21 is 210. Factors of 210 are 1 and 210, which will not make 29. 2 and 105, not making 29. 3 and 70, not making 29. 4 doesn't go at all. 5 and 42 will not make 29. 6 and 35 will. So my pair is going to be, I'm going to rewrite B with 6x plus 35 minus, sorry, I'm not going to do signs yet. Sorry. Dang it. 6x and 35x. C will tell you the sign. Since C is negative, they have to have opposite signs, but bully will copy the middle, and that makes 6x the opposite. Front and back, I got 10x squared in the front minus 21 in the back. So now I'm at 4 terms. GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! Over here on this side, the biggest number that goes into 10 and 6 would be 2, and x squared or x to the first would be x to the first. Divide by 2x, divide by 2x. I get 5x minus 3. Over here, I can pull a 7. Right? Positive. 35x divided by 7 would 35. Yeah, 35x divided by 7 would be 5x. Negative 21 divided by 7 would be negative 3. And what the heck am I doing? Positive 7 would be here. And this would be 5x minus 3. So my GCF again, notice I have matching binos. My GCF again is going to be by 5x minus 3. To get what's left, I divide by 5x minus 3. And in red is what's left, which is 2x plus 7. Now to solve, we set to 0. So I have 5x minus 3 equals 0. Add 3. 5x equals 3. Divide by 5. And x equals 3/5. 2x plus 7 equals 0. Minus 7. I got 2x equals negative 7. Divide by 2. And I get x equals negative 7/2. Okay. There's my negative 7/2. There's my 3/5. Okay. All right, you try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got 9 and negative 9. Difference of squares. Square root of x squared is x. The square root of 81 is 9. They're perfect, so bino, plus and mino. And my terms are the roots you just found. So it's x plus 9 and x minus 9. Those are the factors. To solve it now, x plus 9 equals 0, x minus 9 equals 0. Minus 9, x equals negative 9, add 9, x minus 9, x equals 9. And there's my two solutions. Okay. Go. Hit pause, come back when you're ready. Alright, hopefully you got 3. This one I need to get everything on the same side, so I'm going to add 36, add 36. That gives me 4x squared minus 24x plus 36 equals 0. So I got to get everything on the same side. I notice those ends are perfect squares, so I'm going to check for a perfect trinomial. The square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 36 is 6. Does, what's in the middle? 24x, don't worry about signs, equal 2 times 2x times 6. So that'd be 4x times 6 would be 24x. Yes, it does. So it's going to be a perfect square, but with a minus this time. And your terms are going to be 2x minus 6 squared. Which means 2x minus 6 times 2x minus 6 equals 0. Yes? Okay. So now to solve it, I have 2x minus 6 equals 0. Add 6. So 2x equals 6. Divide by 2. X equals 3. Since these are the same roots, when I solve this one, I'm going to get the exact same thing, which is why my solution is only 3. Alright, and you can see right there, it's tangent. Alright, try this one, hit pause, come back when you're ready. Which of the following cannot be a solution set for a quadratic equation? There's a law that says whatever the highest degree is, so like if I had an equation but it had x to the 8th in it, the degree would be 8, which would mean 8 possible solutions or less than that by 2. When you have a quadratic, that's x squared, which means the most you can have is 2 solutions. Well, this says you have 3. That's not possible in a second degree equation. Okay? Okay, try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. Okay, it was nice of them. They already factored this for us, but they want the sum of the solutions. To turn factors into solutions, you're going to set each one to 0 and solve it. Add 3, at x equal 3, minus 5, x equal negative 5. Then they want the sum of those. So my first sum plus my first solution plus my second solution would give me negative 2. Okay, and you can see from here that, yeah, it crosses at negative 5 and at positive 3. Okay, try this one. Hit pause. Come back when you're ready. And hopefully you got B. All right, the product of the solutions. That means I got to find the solutions first. So I got to get everything on the same side. So I'm going to add 21x to both sides, which kills him. And I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, which gives me 10x squared plus 21x minus 10 equals 0. So if I go for A times C, I'm going to have 10 times 10, which is 100. My factors of 100 are 1 and 100, which is not going to make 21 in the middle. 2 and 50, which is not going to make that in the middle. 3 doesn't go into 100. 4 goes in there 25 times. Oh, that'll make 21. So I'm going to rewrite B as 4x and 25x. Let C tell you the sign. C is negative, which means my signs have to be opposite. And they have to be, bully is going to pick the middle. So 25 gets the plus, which means 4 is the minus. Bring down the first and the last. 10x squared at front minus 10 at back. We are now at 4 terms, where we can go 2 by 2, GCF, GCF, GCF again. Woo! All right, when I GCF over here, biggest number they have in common is a 2, and the biggest x is 1x. So divide to get what's left, and I'm going to end up with 5x minus 2. On the other side, biggest number that'll go into both of those is 5 and a plus. Divide by 5, I get 5x minus 2. GCF again by 5x minus 2 leaves 2x plus 5. Okay, so if I get these solutions, 5x minus 2 equals 0, add 2, 5x equals 2, divide by 5, divide by 5, x equals 2/5. Okay, then I have 5x minus 2, or I just did that one, 2x plus 5 equals 0, minus 5, 2x equals negative 5. Divide by 2, divide by 2, x equals negative 3.5, negative 2.5, negative 5 halves. Let's just leave a fraction. All right. So now if I add those, or no, product those, okay, I have positive 2/5 times negative 5 halves. Product of fractions, straight across the top, 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 10 divided by 10 is negative 1. All right, and that will do it for day 6. I will see you next time for day 7.